When he finally was arrested, um, and we saw him on television, I knew that it was him. How could I not? He was in my face for hours. Horrible memories that you wouldn't forget. I did not want anyone to know what happened. I thought that, there's a lot of reasons that many victims don't tell what has happened to them. In fact, probably 80% of rapes and sexual assaults are never reported. Everyone has their own reasons. Some of my reasons were that I felt embarrassed and stupid. I was ashamed. I thought that if my mother found out, she'd make me drop out of school and go home. I thought that people who knew me would treat me differently, that strangers would point at me and say, that's her, that's that girl that was raped. I just decided to suck it up and pretend it never happened and get on with my life. But the important thing is to remember that keeping it a secret is not just about me. Most victims don't share. And that's when I began feeling personally responsible, like it was my fault. If I had come forward, maybe other people would have been warned, or he would have been captured sooner. Maybe no one else would have been injured or hurt. But also at that point, I didn't want to come forward because I didn't know what else I could add to the investigation, and my fears of being put in the public eye and focused upon kept me from doing that. Initially, I made some poor decisions. I dropped out of social life. I began self-medicating, which was not in my personality at all. There are a lot of victims I've learned since then that use that as a coping mechanism, either alcohol or drugs as some way to make themselves feel better. I used that for a couple of years, and then finally I was able to push it all inside and contain it and pretend it never happened and just go on with my life. I had an encounter with some things that kind of triggered all of those old memories and brought them flooding to the surface where I couldn't conceal them anymore. I discovered that was post-traumatic stress disorder, which I sort of thought was maybe, I'd heard of PTSD, but I thought maybe it was a kind of depression that soldiers get from watching their friends get killed in battle. I've since learned that anyone can get PTSD who has experienced or even witnessed a traumatic event of any sort. And I've learned that holding those feelings and emotions inside and never healing the emotional wounds of a trauma are one of the main risk factors for developing PTSD. And I've learned that the 80% of women don't ever tell, and that means there's a lot of victims who are carrying those heavy secrets and setting themselves up potentially for PTSD re-victimization. I wrote the book for myself. It was a way of my healing, taking all those jumbled feelings and emotions that are totally indescribable and putting them into words and sentences and paragraphs was beneficial to me. I had no intention of actually publishing the book. I just was writing it more like a journal, just a story for me. And through the process, I learned that there are other victims and I wasn't alone. And part of PTSD is a very lonely feeling like nobody could ever understand what you've been through and what you've experienced, because no one has experienced it. But really, there are a lot of other victims who feel exactly the same way.